Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy, Mr. Cobain Rivers.
And your girl, Taylor Joy Stevens.
First and foremost, we're gonna thank you all for checking us out. Our first attempt at the podcast life.
Ooh, it's not an attempt anymore,
Yeah,
baby.
we've been talking about this for a minute. I mean, I think it's been like probably like a year now
Yeah.
that we've been talking about getting this going. So
hmm
glad we're doing it.
Me too.
Yeah. What's this podcast about though? What we talking about here?
Creativity and all its facets and forms,
Hmm.
and just being creatives ourselves. We feel like we have a lot to share and start discussions with you all on, and even people that don't deem themselves as creatives. This podcast is also for you because at the end of the day, if you're human, you're creative and you have creativity within you. So we're
Facts.
exploring that.
Facts. Everybody has creativity within them, and so we want to talk about all things creative, break down some of those barriers for people that think that they're not creative.
hmm
You can be creative in any field.
Yeah.
Uh,
Creative in life.
mm, Life creativity.
hmm
Mm,
Even you're creating a family is creative. How
I
you
mean,
build your family, your choices you make, the food you cook.
you got a point.
It's everywhere.
Everything you do is creative.
Yeah.
Where do we start with creativity? Like how do you come into
Mhm.
whether it's a project, whether it's like you said, whether it's creating a family, where do you start with that creativity? Where do you find that inspiration to be like, oh, this is what I want to model this after? Um,
Or yeah, or like just inspiration in general, like what's that spark that makes you create or what helps your creative process.
mhm.
And one example I wanted to talk about was Julia Garner with her role of Ruth on Ozark. And when she was on Jimmy Fallon, she was preparing for this scene. I don't know if we can show it or not. Maybe no words, but it's really, really, really climactic scene and like huge scene for Ruth as a character. And she talked about how she found creativity in two places. One was within a Caravaggio painting. She just finds a lot of inspiration with the artist Caravaggio and just like the intensity of his work. So as she was working on this scene, she was taking inspiration from this piece of art,
Right, right.
which I find so fascinating.
And the
Just
art
the
was pretty dark. It was like,
yeah, it
uh,
was like
yeah, it was like mutilated heads in there, right, or something like that, or
it was
severed heads.
intense. It
Yeah,
was
yeah, it
graphic.
was it's pretty intense.
It was
And the scene
gory.
that Taylor's talking about, like, I think in it she's like experiencing this like intense just emotion, like
Anger,
anger.
rage.
Yeah.
And so that was part of it. And she said the other part of her creativity or what inspired her creativity in that scene and building that character for that was Mike Tyson
Yep.
when he
Yeah. When he
ripped that guy's ear off with his
Holyfield, yeah,
teeth.
when he bit Holyfield's ear off,
Yeah.
she said in that
I'm just
moment
like,
the rage. It's the photo. It's basically in the photo where he's just like
yeah.
he's kind
The
of
moment
hulking out.
after.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, and when she said that, like, okay, I saw this scene before she had this conversation with Jimmy Fallon. But once she said that, I was like, wow, I can see that in her work. And I just think it's really awesome. Like, even when you're working within one space or within one art form, there's so many other places. I mean, we find inspiration everywhere as humans.
We
Like,
do.
that's life. So I just really loved that. And I love that she shared that process because I think a lot of people actually speaking for actors, like, I don't think a lot of actors, I haven't heard a lot of actors like pull from different mediums like that to work on a scene. But it makes so much sense.
You're speaking for all the actors in the world.
No, I'm just saying, like, from the actors that, like, I've at least worked with and associated with, we haven't ever, like, shared, like, oh, I was looking at this painting and it, like, really informed this scene. Like, I thought that was, like, a really deep creative process that inspired me.
Yeah. Being able to look at any piece of art and take that and then embody it in a different medium, I think is a skill in itself.
Yeah.
being able to just pull from that. And I think that's what we do when we go look at art. Whenever you go and look at a museum and
Mhm.
you're looking at art, you in that moment are probably figuring out what this means to you. How do you feel from it? What thoughts does this provoke in your mind?
Mhm.
So it's not too far fetched to think, okay, I can take that now, go to this other project I have, remember those things that I felt and I thought, and now how do I manifest that into this character? Um,
Well, and I think that's why it's so important to be multifaceted and to, like, live your life, because if you're
mhm.
so hyper focused on one thing, like, it doesn't leave room for that creativity, you know?
Yeah,
Like, if you're tunnel vision on something, you're not seeing everything else. So I think when you live, like, a well-rounded life and you are interested in other things, like, you can pull from everything you're interested in to inform your creativity.
I agree. I think you have to experience life to be able to properly convey all the things needed to convey when dealing in art and communicating whatever your intention is.
Mhm.
Because you got to know how other people are going to perceive this, if they're going to be able to identify the emotions you've attached to this.
Mhm.
So I think you have to experience things because you have to know, you know, yeah, you have to be affected. We got to be affected by things, and
Mhm.
especially in a craft like entertainment, because
Yeah.
so much about entertainment is about relaying an experience that's familiar to others.
Yeah,
Uh,
relatable.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's fantastic. I think it's cool, seeing an actress really like take something, and those paintings that she described do have that visceral uh emotion. So then you
It's,
see
like,
the
really
scene.
primal too.
Yeah, yeah, you see the scene and you're like, oh, okay, I see that inspiration, especially the Tyson one. When she said
Mhm.
that, I was like, oh damn, okay, all right, she feeling it.
I
uh,
almost love that even more because, like, the intersection of sports and creativity and, like, the sports something about the competitive spirit,
mhm.
you know? I don't know, like, cause maybe because I was, like, a former athlete too and just, like, being a gymnast and dancer and stuff, there are so many, like, crossovers, and just, like, the type of emotion you experience in those moments of being an athlete are so translatable to, like, other things, and I think well, that's a whole other conversation, but, being, like, an athlete in sports is also creative in itself too,
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, you
and art forms.
absolutely. I mean, plays are creative. I mean,
Mhm,
how a person goes about running a play and scoring the ball, or scoring the goal, depending on what sport you're playing. I think it's all creativity.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
so I think, I guess my question for you is like, where do you tend to start with creativity when you go into a, a project?
I think it really depends on the project, because if it's something like dance, it would be a song that I hear or, like, listening to music that, like, sparks choreography and like, strong enough for me to wanna, like, do something to it,
Yeah.
create a video. Um, and other times, I mean, a lot of times it's, like, just doing an activity that frees my mind and allows me to, like, not think so much, and that happens a lot when I'm skating, like, I'm able to get into a flow state
Mm, nice.
that puts me into, like, a creative brain state too.
That flow state. Okay.
Yeah. And again, that's, like, using movement some for me is a really big spark of like creativity,
Mhm.
especially when I'm like using my body. Like a lot of times like my body will inform my brain.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So so I've noticed that. And then other times it's like I don't know, I'm even looking like at this artwork where we're at and like I can see stories in the artwork and it inspires yeah, I don't know, it's I feel like it's everywhere.
Yeah.
People watching,
Mhm. Yeah.
overhearing conversations, I feel
Yeah.
like all especially in LA.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sparks stories all the time, but yeah, I mean, I think that's even, like, one of our biggest connection points is the music.
Mhm.
Music is responsible for, like, starting so many things.
Yeah. It's a music is, I think, an easy one for people to find inspiration in because it's something that every culture and every point in time has had throughout history, you can see that something about music is vital to humanity.
Mhm.
I think there's
It's like a universal language.
yeah, like it's constant. Civilization to civilization, it's constant.
Mhm.
But there's some way they've made sounds from the things around them, and then created a rhythm or created some sort of clear intentional melody.
Mhm.
And so I think that's amazing. So music is always going to be one of those things that I think we as people find inspiration and creativity. And I mean, I think there's people that even say they're not creative, but like they like music.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm just like, okay, well, like your brain clearly gravitates towards the creativity in that music or the entertainment that
Mhm.
you've watched, but I think people sometimes don't think about what creativity really means, and I think they
Mhm.
immediately associate it with, oh, I'm not creative because I don't make music, or because I don't do anything in film, or I'm not creative that way. I don't
Yeah.
write books. I'm not creative, but the reality is, I think you could be a doctor
Mm.
and be creative. I think about how
Yeah.
many appointments I've been to where the doctor has come up with a creative solution to a problem,
Mhm.
where there's the initial solution, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to take all that, or I don't know if I want to do all that. And they're like, okay, well, let's get creative with it. And I'm like, oh, speak to me, doc. Like,
Yeah.
so creativity is everywhere. And I think we allow ourselves often to hide behind this. Oh, I'm not creative. You are. You just got to find what it is that brings that out of you, boo boo. I think that's
Mhm.
it.
Mhm. Yeah, and like I feel like that's a big reason why we're doing this is like to inspire everyone to tap into that creativity that is innate in them and to stop like putting this like label on it,
Mhm.
like how it's supposed to look because it looks different for everyone and like everyone deserves to enjoy
Yeah.
it because it does contribute to your overall happiness.
And it contributes to society's happiness, in my
Mhm.
opinion. I think some of the happiest societies were the most creative ones. I mean, you look at the Roman Empire and how like huge that was, and there was all kinds of creativity popping there. I mean, you saw it in the buildings, and like in
Mhm.
architecture. You saw it in how kingdoms were run. You saw it in how people. I think about gladiators, and I know that's super hyper violent and whatnot, but like they were like, "Yo, I want some athletic like entertainment. How do we create that? All right, let's put some big dudes
It was a
or,
show.
or some people out there and let them
Yeah.
fight for show." So
Bullfighters.
yeah, we always find ways to be creative in different ways.
And entertain each other.
Yeah, and entertain
Yeah.
each other. So
Yeah.
you know,
And the reality is like it doesn't matter your background. Like your background is even more important to like show your unique creativity.
yeah.
So yeah, we just want to like inspire and encourage everyone to tap into that and that'll be our journey.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think for the listener of this journey, I think it's tap into your creativity and share that with us. I mean, I think we want
Mhm.
to be a part of your journey as much as we want you to be a part of ours.
Yeah.
So share how you get creative and where you start, where you find inspirations. Let us know. Maybe we can incorporate that in just my our day to day and really
Mhm.
connect there, because it's all love and it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Self-love media, that's the
That's a
hustle.
yeah.
Um,
Mhm. That's us.
Self-love for the reason that we think you gotta love yourself. I mean, I think that's the only way that any of us can really contribute to society, is loving ourselves. So it
Mhm.
starts with us, and then it goes out from there.
Yeah. And being creative is part of self-love too. So, um
So we appreciate you.
so
Take care of
so
yourself.
let's do this. Let's do this. We'll see you next time.